Start off like this, strip down your machine. To get to bare bones, I have removed the screws here, and I'm installing the left side handrail support onto the main frame here. Alright, I'm going to start by threading the bolts into the slide rail. Alright, I'm going to leave them loose. Don't tighten them down. Get the right side one on. Okay, those are threaded in place. Now, since you're having trouble, do not install the seat next like the manual says. Proceed with installing the other hardware. That's because you're having an alignment issue and we need to set everything in place before we put the seat on. Okay, at this point, prepare 2 of the bolts on the holes in this bracket and insert them into the back of this tube here at the top. You can rest the arm on the support tube. Now bring in the backrest and insert one of the screws or bolts into the threaded barrel that's on the backrest. It may pop out on you, but you can realign everything and get it to thread into place. You may have to use the supplied tools to help you hold and insert the bolts into the backrest. Right there. Alright, do not fully tighten them. Just thread them into the backrest. So you can see it's a little bit floppy there, but we'll insert the remaining bolts to align them into the backrest. Alright, that one's in place. Next, the other one. Okay, now that one's threaded in. Use your tool to thread the bolts into the backrest a little bit more so they're not so dangly and don't strip out the holes. So right now you can see that this is drooping a little bit, but once we get it all marked up and bolts in, we can tighten that down. So just leave that as is. Come around to the right side. Okay, at this point of the installation, you must be very careful and aware of this wire that connects to this wire. And there's holes here and there's holes there, and those holes, well, those 4 holes will at one point align and become 1 each, so 2 holes. And keep an eye out to make sure that you're not putting that bolt through the wire. We'll show you up close. You can see here that looking into those holes, you'll see that the wires can be there. So you got to make sure that you go through the holes without and miss the wires. Okay, so here we go. I have my hardware prepared. I'm going to clip this wire into place. And I'm going to shove it in here into this tube. Okay. Go. Okay, I'm taking a look down, and I can see that in this hole the wire is in the way. So I'm going to reposition some of the wire into this tube and just keep trying until there's no wire in the way. Okay, I see some wire in there a little bit, so I'm going to put the bolt in and push down, and there I am across it. I do not go through it. I use the bolt to push it out of the way, and I'm going to go in here and start threading in my nut. I'm gonna hold it in place with my left hand and start turning the bolt to catch it with my provided tool. Make sure that the nut is in position to be drawn into the tube. I'll show you the cutout. This is the nut that goes on this side, and here you'll see there's a hexagon shape for the nut to get pulled in through. So you got to make sure that this nut is positioned as you tighten up the bolt to make sure that it's going to get pulled into it, because if not, it's going to tighten up against the outer wall of the tube and not fully tighten. There's the other bolt, and I see that there is no wire in the way, so I'm going to have to twist this up and down a little bit to get the bolt to go through, and it's through. I had to lift this up and down to let the holes align so that the bolt will go through, and then I'm going to come in with the nut. Okay, so I'm holding the nut with my right hand and turning the bolt in with my left. There, it's being drawn into the tube now. Okay, but we're just gonna leave it like that, hand tighten. Okay, now here's a part of the reason why we left this loose, and so we can position the armrest cushions in place. We'll move these to align the holes. There we go. And start threading them into the bottom of the cushion. Alright, that's threaded in. But once again, do not fully tighten them. Get the other bolt in. Okay, they're threaded in place. Use the provided tools to cinch them up but not too tight, just so that they don't fall out while you install the other side. Okay, I'm going to put the bolt through the hole, bring it up to the tube, and the tube around. You can see it coming up through the top. I'm going to put the cushion in place through the barrel, and with my hand I'm going to pinch the tube because this one's got a little more misalignment. I'm going to hold it with my thumb and push down on the cushion as I thread. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I can thread it into it a pretty good bit with provided tool. Okay, that's good enough. And put it in through the holes here and line up the cushion. Now there are wires going through these tubes, but it's easier to miss them in this one because they're not bunched up. They're straight through, and not like on the tube over here. I'm gonna cinch up this bolt a bit more so it doesn't come apart while I'm tightening everything else. Okay. Alright, now we got all the bolts threaded into place. Now we're gonna have to start tightening everything up. We're gonna start here, because if this isn't tightened up, everything else is gonna be crooked. You can see here the plate moving. So we're going to square it up so that the sides are flat here, and they're this plate's lined up with this tube. Okay, we're gonna go in a cross pattern. Final alignment as I keep tightening down. Because there's lock washers on here, you're gonna have to tighten these up pretty good. You can see that when I tilt this, you can see these bars going left and right, so that's why it's important to tighten these up first. Because if you start tightening elsewhere, it's gonna be leaning to one side when you get to this point. And then you're gonna be leaning to the side while you're riding the bike. So now that this is tightened, we can go ahead and tighten these up. Gonna get the larger Allen wrench. Alright, now we can fully tighten both pads. These washers on here are curved, so you can hold them so that they are flush up against the curved tube. Okay. I feel sturdy now. Okay. Tightening up the right side. Okay, now that everything is tightened up on the armrest, you'll notice that it's pretty much solid, but you still need to tighten these bolts here down. Now it's very important that these ones get tightened up last because they are tapered. The holes on this part here are tapered, so if they are not square and flush, you may, when you sit down, start stripping the holes out because they're not fully tightened. So you want to make sure these are tightened down very tight and flush. Okay. Okay, now that the armrests and the backrests are installed, next you can put the seat on. Okay. After installing the seat, you see that it's all solid and it's all set up. That's the end.